Well, right, man. One of the biggest questions a lot of buyers always ask: what's the difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qualification? So tell us, what's the difference between the two of them?
Oh man, there's a huge difference. So if you are talking to different lenders out there, and the terms can be like interchangeably used. So a pre-approval in my mind is better, but some other lender may call it a pre-qualification, but actually do the steps. But basically for all intents and purposes, I'm going to break it down right now. A pre-qualification is a lender giving you terms on what you can qualify for without actually reviewing your documents, right? That just cannot be done because there's so many rules in lending, and sometimes people don't know. Like we've talked about this before. Someone says they make 100,000 or they have $100,000 salary. Yes, they may make that, but how they get paid matters.
Right.
If it's a salary versus hourly versus commission, are they self-employed? All of that definitely matters. So that would be a pre-qualification. You call someone, they give you terms over the phone. Whereas a pre-approval is, let's have an introductory call. Okay, now let me get all your documents. Let me verify it. Then let's have a follow-up call and say, okay, you are pre-approved up to this amount. I've reviewed all the documents I need to actually verify that it's going to be true. We're not going to have any issues in the underwriting process.
Right.
Yeah, so very important. And then, so for you, I know this does matter because I'll have agents actually call me when we submit an offer, but why does it matter to a seller when they review your offer for a pre-approval?
I think it matters because when a seller receives an offer and they're working with a good agent, that agent is going to go and verify that they're actually the buyer went through a pre-approval, not just a pre-qualification. Like you said, a lot of agents called you, right?
Yeah.
Because they want to verify that actually the buyer already provided documentation, at least the initial documentation, and that the lender has at least look at all their finances and say, okay, this buyer is a good prospect to get the final approval, right?
Yep.
So that's one of the reasons why it's important to have a pre-approval. Second of all, no seller is going to accept an offer if you don't have a pre-approval letter.
Yeah.
Because when you present an offer, you still want to have some skin in the game. So I believe not only the terms of the offer, right, but also you providing proof of funds if you're buying cash, or you providing a pre-approval letter. That gives you more buying power because it shows the seller that you're actually serious and that you have the means and that you already went through a pre-approval process to be qualified to purchase a house.
Yeah.
So
to not waste their time. Because if you're not, and you go under contract for 30 days and you haven't got a pre-approval and it falls through, they just missed out on 30 days of the market, that
Exactly.
they could get a different buyer in there. So
yeah, but most importantly, there's no point for you to go see homes and submit an offer and not having a pre-approval. Trust me, nobody's going to accept your offer.
Exactly.
Which takes me to the next point, man. Like, when a lot of people always ask, like, when someone goes through the pre-approval process, like, what you guys are actually verifying during that process?
Believe it or not, it's a lot. It's a lot of things. And this is why the initial call is so important versus like if someone sends me a lead or I get in contact, me just like sending them the link to fill out everything. Because we have federal rules and laws when lending that you have to fill. It's called a 1003. It's a formal mortgage application that asks, everything under the sun: your name, your date of birth, your social, where have you been living for the past 2 years, where do you currently work, and where have you worked for the past 2 years? Because we always go back 2 years to verify where someone lived and their employment, right? So all of that general information, and then the other kind of big ticket things that we're looking at is credit score, income. So how much do they make versus their debt to income ratio?
Right.
And then their assets. How much do they have? Do we actually have enough to close on the home for the cash to close, right? So for the assets, that's easy. We just need your bank statements. Again, whatever checking, savings, if you've got any retirement accounts, stock accounts, wherever the cash to close is coming from, and we like to have a little bit of reserve, so like leftover as well. We'll review all of those recent statements.
Right.
Your credit, obviously, so we'll do a credit report and see any debt that you have. And then for income, It depends on, again, how a borrower is paid. So if you're self-employed, we generally look at your tax returns, the 2 most recent filed years. If you're a W-2 employee, we'll look at your W-2s and your recent pay stubs. And then, we can get into all the different various types of loans, like a bank statement loan. We're going to look at your bank statements. But for your main stuff, for your main loans, conventional FHA, VA, USDA, it's going to be either tax returns if you're self-employed or W-2s and pay stubs if you're a W-2 employee.
And which leads me to my next question. Like, if they get pre-approved, like, does the buyers can lose that pre-approval at a certain point, or?
Great question. This is going to be a really intricate answer, and this is how you know that I've done it, because someone can give a general answer on this. So when we're underwriting a file, or when we're looking at a file to see if someone is actually pre-approved, we have to run it through what's called AUS, Automated Underwriting System. And it's essentially like an AI thing in the computer that's going to analyze the file.
Fancy.
And it is fancy. And believe it or not, it was created a long time ago, which is crazy. But it analyzes the file, and once it's done processing, it will come back as approved or not approved. So I bring that up because for conventional loans, we can run it through AUS on a soft credit pool, okay? For government loans, FHA, VA, USDA, we have to do a hard credit pool. It won't pick it up. I don't know why. I don't make the rules, but that's just
Government.
how it is. Yeah. So the reason I do that is if I only do a soft pool on someone, the pre-approval is essentially good forever, as long as we're maintaining the money in our account, we're not opening any new lines of credit, we're not quitting our job, so our income stays the same. Once you do a hard pull, it's good for 120 days. So the answer there is, if you've done a soft pull, if nothing changes, the pre-approval is good forever. Once you do a hard pull, 120 days. That's how you would have to close within 120 days from a lender doing that hard pull on the credit.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah. So
a lot of people don't know that.
They don't know, yeah. And good agents will ask too, how long is that pre-approval good for? And I always kind of do that answer, because some lenders will just say like a general term, but I think it is important to get nitty gritty sometimes when you're talking about someone buying a house. It's
100%.
very important. Which brings me to my last and final questions for you. So why should a buyer get pre-approved before they even start looking at homes?
Very simple. We don't want to waste your time as a buyer.
Yep.
Because if we don't know exactly what you qualify for, like, there's no point for us to go see homes at a certain price point or below what you could potentially get approved for, and then having to start all over again once you get your pre-approval. So I always advise my clients, so, before we can start looking at homes, they have an idea what is their max budget as far as like their monthly payments, what they're looking to afford. Then we can set them up in a search online and kind of start building that list of homes. By the time they get the pre-approval, we already have properties ready to go see, right?
Yep.
But there's no point, man, to go see houses and just, driving around and wasting all that time if you don't know exactly what you qualify for. I think it makes a huge difference once you know exactly what is your buying power, because it's almost like it gets you more excited to know, man, I can afford this amount of this type of property at this price point. And then you start narrowing it down to what you really like. And it makes the process easier for everybody, especially the buyer.
Yeah, 1,000%. There you go, guys. Get you a pre-approval prior to going to look at a house.
Yep. Yeah. Hit us up. Apply in the link below.
That's right. Link below. We'll get you taken care of.
Let's go.